Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, The Importance of Sleep, our latest health and wellbeing webinar in conjunction with the IMechE. My name is Laura Clyne, and I'm the Operations Manager here at Support Network, the personal advice and support charity for members of the IMechE and their family. I'm shortly going to hand over to Neil Gardiner and Dr. Neil Stanley from Sleepstation, who will be delivering the content today. We are recording today's webinar, and all delegates will be sent a copy of the recording within a few days. So if you are affected by technical issues, you will be able to watch at a later date. If you do have any technical issues, please try refreshing your screen. And if that doesn't work, then you can use the Ask a Question box, and one of my colleagues will try and help you with that. The webinar today will last approximately 50 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. And you can ask any questions for the presenters in the Ask a Question box. All messages are private, and we will try to raise all questions at the end of the session. We would also be grateful if at the end of the webinar, you could take a few moments to give us your feedback, and we'll put a link to this in the resources box. Okay, Neil, over to you.
Thank you. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. I've got the pleasure of introducing my colleague, Dr. Neil Stanley. He's here today to talk to you about the importance of sleep, and he brings with him more than 40 years of experience as a sleep expert, and someone who's recognised as such across the world. Very interesting guy to talk to, someone who makes the topic very interesting as well. My role is to give you a bit more information around what Sleepstation is as an organisation and how we help with the prevention of sleep issues, intervention where sleep issues are apparent, and also helping organizations and individuals across the world with optimization of their sleep. The run through of what you can expect over the course of this presentation and then the period is a quick introduction from me, which I'm in the midst of, passing over to my colleague Neil, who can go into why sleep is important. You'll come back to me following that, where I can give you a bit of information around the free access and the free support that you can get through Sleepstation, and then we'll go into the Q&A. And the Q&A normally is a lot more heavily loaded with people asking specific questions of Neil when they've got that expertise here around specific sleep problems that you might have. But if there are any questions relating to Sleepstation as a service and how you might access that, then those questions can be directed to me. So at this point, I will hand over to Dr. Neil.
Dr. Neil, I think you might still be on mute.
There we are. I should be now fully able to be heard. Okay. Right. So, why is sleep important? Sleep's important because if it wasn't important, we wouldn't do it. From an evolutionary point of view, we've been sleeping for as long as we've been humans. All mammals sleep. Their sleep is pretty much similar to ours. Birds sleep, insects sleep. Even jellyfish are known to sleep. And we think from an evolutionary point of view, sleep goes back 450 million years. So if sleep wasn't important, then somewhere along that time we would have found a way of not doing it. And we haven't. We sleep, as I say, the way we've always slept as humans, for somewhere around 8 hours every night. We need to sleep. And that just shows how important sleep actually is. And I can't now move my slides. This is going badly, I think. No, I can't. I can't move my slides.
Neil, would you like me to share my screen and
I
move?
think you're going to have to, because mine has decided not to do anything. So I'll stop. I've stopped sharing. So hopefully, if you can share, Neil, that would be great.
Hopefully you can see. Can you see mine, Neil?
Yeah, I can. If you can,
Just move to the next.
Okay, next slide, please.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes. There we go.
Okay. So let's say after 1 million years of evolution, we still sleep. So next slide, please. And the thing that we have a problem with, though, is that although sleep is vital for good physical, mental, and emotional health, we don't do it. And for many people, this is not a case of illness or having a sleep disorder. It's the fact that we just don't sleep as important. So I'm 57, and when I was growing up, it wasn't difficult to get a good night's sleep. Pubs closed at 10:30, TV went off at 10:30, late night shopping was 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. So it wasn't actually very difficult to go to sleep. But now, of course, there are many, many things to get in the way of our sleep. Now, when I talk to corporate clients, I often get this tale of woe, certainly pre-COVID, of having to get up early in the morning, commute into town, work hard, no lunch break, take your work home with you, work on the train home, get home late, work, send those 11 o'clock emails, and that was oh, woe is me. Well, that might all be true, but it wasn't your boss in your living room last night making you binge watch Netflix. That was down to you. So most people have a sleep problem because they don't give sleep the time that it needs to happen, and they don't go to bed when they feel sleepy. They go to bed when their partner goes to bed or what they're watching finishes, and so we're not listening to our bodies, and we end up not getting the sleep we need. Next slide, please. So everything just seems a bit too exciting. And as I say, sleep is the thing that gets compressed. And this is a big problem because if you have a sleep need, and many people think this is 8 hours, and we'll discuss that in a moment. But if you, shall we say, need 8 hours sleep, you're going to have to be in bed for at least 8.5 hours, because it's going to take you about 20 minutes to fall asleep. So if you aren't in bed for that amount of time, you will never get the sleep that you need. And so we need to make time for our sleep. That's the first thing we do before we do anything else to improve our sleep. We have to see that sleep is more important, certainly, than going to the gym. It's at least as important as eating a healthy diet. So people find the time to go to the gym, to warm up, to wind down, to put their funny clothes on, to do it. But ask them to make time for sleep, and they think that you're some kind of crazy man. There aren't enough hours in the day. Well, there should be for sleep. It is as important to your health as eating, drinking, and breathing. Next slide, please. But we live in a society where actually it is a boast, I suppose, a proud boast that you haven't slept. If you think, that all these great people who supposedly did without sleep, Margaret Thatcher, Napoleon, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Tesla, all of these people supposedly didn't need much sleep. It's all a complete lie. There's a wonderful letter from Edison's daughter, where she says that he comes back across from Menlo Park in order to have his dinner, and then he has to go back to the factory because the newspapers expect it, and that he hates doing this. Thatcher never was a 4-hour-a-night person. She slept plenty of hours. She just put the boast around that she didn't need much sleep because she was a woman heading an all-male cabinet and she wanted to appear strong. But it seems to say that if you don't get a good night's sleep, you expect a pat on the back and a round of applause, rather than being told that you are actually a health and safety hazard. Next slide, please. But a lot of people think, it doesn't matter if I've had a bad night's sleep. You know, I've done this job a million times. I'm good at it. I'm trained. I'm a professional. Literally, I could do this in my sleep. Well, of course, that's completely wrong. Poor sleep has an immediate effect on the next day's performance in terms of judgment, problem solving, seeing shortcuts in issues, and not being able to follow procedure correctly. But then you think, well, okay, even if I am sleepy and even if I am a bit of an issue, then it doesn't matter because I'll notice and I will have a nap, or I'll go out for a cigarette or a breath of fresh air, or get a cup of coffee. I'll notice that I'm a danger and I'll stop. And we all know those signs on the motorway that says tiredness kills, take a break. The problem is the more sleepy you are, the less able you are to judge whether you are sleepy or not. So a few years ago, I was involved with the Department of Transport in a campaign saying the first yawn is too late. When you yawn, that is a signal that you may wish to be having a break, but you're too late. You are already driving sleepy and you are already a significant accident risk because you're doing that. Next slide, please. So in terms of your health, there is a strong link between good sleep and good health, and you probably are aware of that. But what about the link between good sleep and effective business performance? Well, there are parts of business performance that relate very, very simply to simple psychological concepts. I mentioned a few of them a moment ago. Things like memory, learning, problem solving, decision making. All of these things are involved in how you behave at work in terms of leading a team or being part of a team in order to reach the desired goals. And so there is a key link between poor sleep and business performance. Next slide, please. So not only does poor sleep affect your work, but your work can also affect your sleep at night. I mentioned earlier about your commuting and the company policy or the accepted idea of sending emails late at night to prove how dedicated you are to the company. So this can directly affect your sleep, as well, of course, as stress or anxiety. Stress and anxiety are good in moderation. They're what keeps you alive. They're the thing that makes the difference between taking the tickets to the airport and leaving them on the shelf in your living room. That is a degree of anxiety or stress that makes you aware of that. But too much anxiety, too much stress terribly impacts your sleep, because essentially you've initiated your fight or flight response. You're in a danger situation and you have to be ready either to hit whatever it is or run away from it. That is not the mindset that you need when you get into bed. Next slide, please. So if you're looking from a way of doing a job that you want to look at new insights, new ways of doing things, as I say, seeing patterns or seeing workarounds in a situation. And these things are all done in the part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. Now, this is the bit that makes you clever. It's unique to humans. It's the last bit of the brain to have developed, and it does all the clever stuff that differentiate us from chimpanzees. Unfortunately, that bit of the brain is particularly sensitive to poor sleep. Next slide, please. So what problems can be seen in the workplace if you turn up to work sleepy? Well, you can make more errors, you can be late to work, fall asleep at work, even not turn up to work. And of course, there is the possibility of injury or accident. About 2% of accidents in the workplace are ascribed to sleepiness. Now, that may not seem to be a very great deal, but the problem with accidents that involve sleepiness is the lack of response to a situation. And that is what turns a small accident into a very, very big accident. So hopefully your sleep-related accident that you have will be a bizarre stapling accident, but it could be blowing up Chernobyl. As you may know, Chernobyl, 12 minutes past 1 in the morning, a safety depressurization that went wrong, and the guys just did not react to the signals that they were given because they were sleepy. So something that was perfectly safe and containable became the worst nuclear accident. And this is the issue. Small lapses in performance or judgment can have amazingly big effects. Next slide, please. So that's sleep and the workplace. What about sleep and life? Why do we sleep? Well, as I said, it's a universal phenomenon. We've been doing it a long time, so it must be vital. So what is the benefit of sleep? Well, sleep is a time for rest, repair, and recuperation, not necessarily of the body, because you're doing that as I speak. You're sitting down, your blood pressure's dropped, your heart rate's dropped, and you're not using your major muscle groups. So your body can repair, but your brain cannot repair during the day because it's working too hard. And so only during the night can the brain get its rest. But in terms of the body, your sleep it boosts your immune system, optimizes your immune system. So if you get one poor night's sleep the next day, you're 4 times more likely to catch the common cold. Sleep is also involved in your endocrine and metabolic function. And it's basically about what we call homeostasis, which is just a fancy word for balance. It's like keeping everything in order. So if you think of it as a car, it's about having a service every single night to make sure that the car is working properly. That is what sleep is doing for us. So, as I say, sleep is as important as diet and breathing and drinking in order to be healthy. Next slide, please. So, how is sleep put together? Well, in any one 24-hour period, you're in one of 3 distinct states of being. You're either awake, which hopefully, despite the technical disasters on my end, you all are still now, or you're in rapid eye movement sleep, or you're in non-rapid eye movement sleep. Now, REM and non-REM are as different from each other as they are from awake. You don't notice the difference because, of course, you're asleep at the time, but there is a profound difference between these 2 states of being. Non-rapid eye movement sleep makes up about 75% of the night and is further divided into 3 stages of sleep, each of increasing depth. So N1 is the entry into sleep. Whenever you fall asleep, you will go through N1 sleep. It's the lightest stage of sleep, such that if I were to wake you up during N1 sleep, you'd say, "Why did you do that? I wasn't actually asleep." Makes up about 1 to 5% of the night. And is what happens when you are sitting at your desk and your neck muscles go a bit slack and your head drops, or when you're driving along and you can't remember the last 3 miles of your journey, that's N1 sleep. N2 sleep makes up 50% of the night. Now, you would have thought the thing that makes up 50% of the night would be really, really important. It probably is. We just don't actually know why it's important. It seems to be involved in a number of processes, but these processes are done more and more effectively in other stages of sleep. So we're not sure at the moment what the function of stage 2 sleep is. N3 is known as deep sleep or slow wave sleep. You may have heard the phrase, or even delta sleep, and we'll discuss that in the next slide. And then the second state of being during the night, rapid eye movement sleep, we'll also discuss in a future slide. So non-REM sleep, N3 sleep makes up around 20-25% of the night, and REM sleep makes up the last 20 or so percent of the night. Next slide, please. So slow wave sleep, as I say, the N3 sleep is the most important part of sleep. We know this because if you go without sleep for an entire night, the next night you will make up all of your missing slow wave sleep. And only half of your REM sleep. So slow wave sleep is the most important part of sleep. So slow wave sleep is important. I mentioned the immune system. Slow wave sleep, that optimizing of the immune system only occurs during slow wave sleep. It also does things like memory. Everything about today that you experience, you will keep in your mind until tonight when you go into deep sleep. And during your deep sleep, you will sort out all of this new information. Now, some of the information you receive is completely unimportant and it is safe to forget, but it is an active process whereby you actually identify the things that you can forget and you put them in the trash, just in the same way you do with an email. But some of the information you receive today is important, and because of that, you need to identify this information, you need to lay the information down as a memory, you need to put it somewhere where you can find it again, but also you need to connect that new piece of information with all the other pieces of information that you have previously learned. And that is what occurs during our slow wave sleep. You also learn during the night. So if you practice a task until you're as good at the task as you could be, when you get into bed, before you get into bed, you'll actually be up to 17% better at that task merely because you have slept. You also only ever grow during your slow wave sleep, which is why children have so much slow wave sleep. They're memorizing things, they're learning things, they're growing, and so slow wave sleep is vitally important to them. Next slide, please. Rapid eye movement sleep, as I say, is the last 20-25% of the night and is the second state of being. Rapid eye movement sleep, so called because when you do it, often your eyes are seen to be moving backwards and forwards under your eyelids. There was a very American term. The French, who discovered that it was not just unique to humans, called it paradoxical sleep because it is a bit weird. And the reason why it's a bit weird is that when you are in rapid eye movement sleep, you have your long narrative dreams. Everybody dreams 4 or 5 times a night, but you can only remember a dream if you wake up during it. But when you're in a dream, your dreams are real. They're as real to your mind and body as sitting here now is real. And this means that you can have a physiological response to that dream. So something happens that is maybe frightening, you wake up from your dream and you are breathing heavily, sweating, heart is pounding, and you think, golly, that must be real. And you also all had that experience where you wake up in the morning and think, I can't possibly go to work today. I've just spent all night fighting dinosaurs, and frankly, I'm exhausted. So this is a separate experience, as I say, a different reality that you live through in your dream. Now, it would be a bit embarrassing if 4 or 5 times a night you were to run around the bedroom being chased by dinosaurs. So nature protects you from harm. When you dream, you lose muscle tone, so you are unable to act out your dreams. Next slide, please. So how is sleep put together? Well, this is a very, very idealized version of a good night's sleep for the average adult. Essentially, within 15 to 20 minutes of you switching the light off, you should fall asleep. All things being equal, a healthy adult will fall asleep within 20 minutes. If you regularly take more than 30 minutes to fall asleep, that could be indicative of insomnia. But also falling asleep too quickly is a problem. If you fall asleep the minute your head hits the pillow, then you have to question as to whether you may have a sleep problem and be sleep deprived. Once you've fallen asleep, you'll quickly go through your lighter stages of sleep, and about 20 minutes into sleep, you'll have gone into your first period of deep sleep. This period may last 40 to 70 minutes of consolidated sleep, deep sleep, and then you will have your first REM period. At this point, your first REM period may only last 10 minutes or so. Then you'll go back into some more deep sleep, and then on a roughly 90-minute cycle, you will go through periods of REM and that lighter stage 2 sleep. In the night, you will have REM periods lasting anything up to 45 minutes or so. And as I say, they happen on a routine which is roughly 90 minutes. So the first third of the night is predominantly in that deep sleep. This is when you can sleep through a thunderstorm or your teenage daughter coming home at midnight. The latter part of the night is lighter, more easily disturbable. But as I say, you preferentially wake up from REM sleep. So one of the reasons why people feel they wake up at the same time each night is because they go to bed roughly at the same time, they have their REM periods roughly at the same time, therefore they feel they wake up at roughly the same time. Next slide, please. So how much sleep do you need? Well, everybody says 8 hours. Everybody is wrong. Sleep need is like height. It's genetically determined, and we're all different. So it's not about getting a magic number of hours of sleep. It's about getting the number of hours that are right for you. So anywhere between 5 and 11 hours can be considered normal. But there's a difference between genetically needing 5 hours and only allowing yourself 5 hours sleep. So there are some people who will thrive with no negative consequences on 5 hours sleep at night. Others need 11 hours sleep at night. Personally, after 40 years as a sleep expert, I know I need 9.5 hours sleep at night in order to feel at my best. So it's getting the sleep you need. So you might say, well, how do I know how much sleep I need? Well, it's very simple. The amount of sleep you need is the amount that allows you to feel awake, alert, and focused during the day. If you have a problem with your sleep, you will feel consequences during the day. So if you feel awake, alert, focused now, then you had enough sleep last night, regardless of the number of hours. If you feel tired now, well, I don't really care because tired has got nothing to do with sleep. Tired has got to do with what I like to call having a bit of a bad day. Tired is, it's grey and miserable. I didn't win the Euro Millions jackpot last night, so I'm probably going to carry on having to talk to people like you. The tech went completely wrong, even though we practiced it for half an hour before starting a webinar. Well, life's just a bit rubbish, isn't it? That's nothing to do with sleep. If you have a problem with your sleep, you will be sleepy. So you might say, well, what's the difference between being tired and being sleepy? Well, it's very simple. You climb up 3 flights of stairs When you get to the top, do you need a sit down or do you need a sleep? If you need a sit down, you're tired, fatigued, knackered, exhausted. If you need a sleep, you are sleepy. Next slide, please. So how sleepy are you now? This is the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. I'm going to show you 8 different scenarios. You have to imagine that you're in that scenario as we speak and how likely you are on a scale of 0 to 3 that you would be to fall asleep. So 0, there's no chance you'd fall asleep. 1, slight chance. 2, moderate chance. 3, there's a high chance of you falling asleep. So 8 different scenarios. That's a high score of 24. Hopefully none of you score 24. So here we go now. So first slide, please. Now, next slide. So if you are sitting and reading as we speak, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? 0, no chance. 1, slight chance. 2, there's a moderate chance. 3, there's a high chance. So just keep a running total. Next slide, please. If you were sitting and watching television, 0 to 3. Next slide. If you were sitting quietly in a public place, like a theatre or a meeting, how likely, 0 to 3, would you be to fall asleep? Next slide, please. If you're in a car as a passenger for an hour, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? Next slide, please. If you were sitting quietly and talking to someone, 0 to 3, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? Next slide, please. If you were sitting after lunch without alcohol, next slide, please. If you were driving a car but you were stopped at the traffic lights or somewhere like that for a few minutes, how likely would you be to fall asleep? Next slide, please. And if you were lying down to rest in the afternoon when circumstances permit, 0 to 3. So hopefully you've all got a total. So what does the total mean? Next slide, please. Well, if you scored less than 10, the good news is that you are normal. Of course, the closer to 10 you are, the more sleepy you are, but below 10 is considered a normal degree of sleepiness. Above 10 would be considered that you have daytime sleepiness. Above 16 would be considered a real issue, and certainly you would want to be having discussions with your GP as to why you are sleepy or so sleepy during the day. So if any of you scored above 10, you need to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question is why? And the second question is, why did you turn up to work today? Next slide, please. Because daytime sleepiness affects you in exactly the same way that alcohol does. So if you were an 8-hour a night person, I know a few slides ago I told you weren't an 8-hour a night person, but just play along. But if you were an 8-hour a night person, getting 6 hours sleep is the equivalent of drinking 2 half-litre bottles of beer last night. 4 hours sleep is equivalent to 4 beers. 5 hours sleep, 2 hours sleep is equivalent to 5 beers, and 0 hours sleep is equivalent to 7 beers. So 3.5 litres of drink last night is the equivalent of not getting any sleep. And as I said earlier, if you turned up to work drunk, it would be a disciplinary offence. No question about it. You turn up to work sleepy, even though you are equally impaired. This seems to be like wearing a badge of honor rather than seeing yourself as a health and safety risk and somebody who's going to be less productive, make mistakes, be aggressive and argumentative with their colleagues and their customers, you see it as perfectly acceptable. And frankly, it is not. So that's the end of me until we come to Q&A. Thank you for your forbearance with me being completely hopeless with tech. And I'll now pass over to the other Neil to talk to you about how you can get a better night's sleep with Sleepstation helping you through. So over to you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. I hope I did okay with the slides there. It was interesting to pay such close attention because we've done a few of these before. So, yep, I think as everyone can appreciate, Neil obviously gives a good understanding of kind of the importance of sleep. And I think one of the key things is understanding what your own sleep need might be. Sleepstation is an organization. We work with many different organizations across the world, and we help with looking at populations and helping to provide support to prevent people developing sleep problems, to provide an intervention when people have a sleep problem and give them access to a solution, but also looking at how we can help people with regards optimizing their sleep as well. You've got the great benefit of having free access to this through your membership, and I'm going to just go into what Sleepstation is, how it works, and how you can benefit from it. So if anything that Neil has said has kind of resonated with you, so if you come here today, I know some people might attend because they've got a bit of an interest in the subject. Other people might attend because it's what they periodically do is look into different kind of health and well-being things and like to kind of keep on top of stuff. But if you have come here today and you think, actually, I'm doing this because I recognise that sleep maybe is a problem at times, and then maybe I do want to have a look at maybe why it might be a problem for me, or determine if it's a problem and maybe look towards a solution, then that's great, because ultimately we're not here just to provide education. We're here to also provide the opportunity to access a solution that's helped many thousands of people across the world and helps thousands of people every month. So most people maybe recognize where if they have had a sleep problem for a while, they don't really know where to start and how to get things sorted. If you recognize that you periodically have, as Neil said, sleepiness during the day as opposed to just tiredness, or even if you feel like you're not always operating at 100% and you feel like you've got some of that brain fog, if you fall into the bracket of being someone that generally doesn't want to get into medication and doesn't want to be taking sleeping pills, then you're with the majority in that regard. Sleepstation has helped people that have the desire to avoid sleeping pills, that are on sleeping pills and desire to come off them, and we support healthcare providers and clinicians in helping their patients to do that. We also have a great deal of experience. We've been seeing patients and helping service users since 2012. Um, and a lot of people that come to us have high severity, so sleep problem, and need what we class as kind of higher intensity support. A lot of those people, if you look at some of the stuff that's in the press recently, we had an individual, a lady that used our service, and she had insomnia for 24 years. She had tried pretty much everything under the sun. She got to that kind of point where she thought nothing works. The great thing is to be able to be here today and tell you that actually there is something that works, and not only is it highly effective, and we can demonstrate reasons as to why, it has 40 years of science and 40 years of evidence behind it. So what is Sleepstation? Sleepstation is a digital intervention, and what it is it's a way for you to get access to that science. The science at the core of what we do is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. As I said, there's 40 years of evidence behind that. And how it works is it's a behavior change program. And what it does is it helps people to understand, as Neil said, what are the habits that might be driving your good sleep, your bad sleep, and how can we help you address your sleep problem and help develop the behaviors and encourage the behaviors that can improve your sleep. There is this methodology that's followed. That methodology that people follow is supported by a sleep coach that sits at the heart of our program. So as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, conversations that you would have as a service user, you would come in and be admitted into the program and have access to a sleep coach. That sleep coach sits within an MDT. that multidisciplinary team, which has the clinical and information oversight within there. So you've got people like Neil that bring the scientific background and research background to Sleepstation. You've got clinicians such as Professor Joe McDonald, who's a psychiatrist, and Dr. Karen Marshall, different people that have the clinical expertise to help understand sleep and how it might, not only how we could help address your problem specific to insomnia, but particularly how other sleep problems could be identified, or how sleep can be addressed in light of other challenges or other comorbidities or other concerns you might have, such as pain, diabetes, different health concerns that you might have. So what we're here to do is to give people access to the science, but most importantly, give them access to the support that helps them understand that science, understand that intervention, and take it on board in bite-sized chunks. So we're not here to create sleep experts. We've got Neil Stanley, and there's not many like him, but we don't need you to know everything there needs to know about sleep. You need to know enough to be able to support your own sleep needs and to get the individual amount of sleep that you require. So ultimately, what Sleepstation's about, it's digital login. You come in, you've got access to, as I say, a sleep coach. That sleep coach is there to, kind of let you offload and talk about how your sleep problem might look, how it manifests, what your habits might look like. So over the course of the first week within the program, you'll fill in sleep diaries, fill in, complete sleep and well-being assessments, have the conversation as it's illustrated here on screen through the secure messaging back and forth with your sleep coach. We'll get an understanding of what your requirements are, and that person will help you introduce you to the methodology, provide you with the support over the course of a few weeks to address your sleep problem in a way that's been proven time and time again to be effective, and to support you in how you might look to tailor that program or understand or implement different techniques and different things within it to get to where you want to be. And as you can see in the right hand side of the screen, it shows someone getting from a kind of shorter red bar chart to a longer green bar chart, illustrating that by the end of the program they're in a much better position. The great thing about Sleepstation, we've obviously got 11 years of experience in delivering this solution, and more than 75% of the people that come into the service engage because of the way we've front load that effort with regards to the work that's there with our onboarding team and our sleep coaches to help you get engaged, to help you stay motivated and support you along the way. But the other thing that's really important and kind of startling for most people is that of those who engage, almost 9 out of 10 people reach recovery. So 87% of people that engage with our service reach recovery. What recovery looks like, as Neil alluded to, is different for different people. So recovery, really, from our perspective, yes, we use multiple scientifically validated objective measures to determine that, but it is, as we'd said, it's relevant to your own sleep needs and your own sleep goals. So how does it look? Like when you come into the program, you complete a detailed sleep assessment, something that happens within the first week. The result of the information that's shared within that assessment, and where we get to an understanding of your sleep needs and your potential sleep problem, the team can craft an individual sleep plan that you then are presented with and have an opportunity to follow over the course of the next few weeks. But the team are there to support you with following that. They're there to provide you with access to the resources, access to the questions, the ability to question things and get the context, and to help you ensure that what you're doing, you understand why you're doing it, how you can do it, and you support it in doing it along the way. As I mentioned, it's a gold standard approach. By that I mean it's recommended by the health boards in the majority of healthcare systems across the world. It delivered entirely online. So we were initially commissioned as a service that was there to support a face-to-face delivery of this intervention. Subsequently, it was determined, it was realized through clinical validation that we're actually more engaging and more effective than the face-to-face it was there to support. And as such, now we support patients and service users in nearly 50 countries across the world. So what you get as you go through it, illustrated here by the screens that you can see, most people access Sleepstation through their phone. You get advice and support from sleep experts. So some of that advice and support is tailored and specific to you. So that's what you'll get from your sleep coaches through the secure messaging. But some of it is a case of the coaches understanding a particular issue you've got, or a particular technique, or a particular thing that you might benefit from, pointing you in the direction, again, as illustrated here, to videos from some of the sleep doctors or the sleep experts within the program. So there's curated content specific to the issues that you might have, or the concerns that you might have, or questions that you might ask. And there's time-related content as well. So there's things that will pop up at a certain point that's relevant for you to support your journey through the program. So getting access to Sleepstation is really easy. There'll be a link that will come up in one of the slides further down the line, but that link can be shared by the team. at the end of the day, I think there's follow-up emails that will go out to the delegates that are here today. You simply follow that link and you log in. Illustrate it again by the screen here. It's pretty easy. If you create a login for any other digital services, you'll find it quite easy to get into the system. What happens at that point is you will be prompted to introduce yourself to your sleep coach or sleep team, where you could have 2 to 3 coaches that are actually involved in some way with your the support that you get access to. But ultimately, you'll probably have one primary sleep coach that will have most of the communication with yourself. Sleep coach is there to kind of help pinpoint the causes of your sleep problems. So it's completely confidential. It gives you the opportunity to talk about what your problem looks like, and then also talk about where your problem might stem from. The great thing about this is our coaches are fully trained in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. They specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So they specialize in helping people with their sleep problems. Whilst that can involve talking about problems that sit outside of sleep that might, uh, be driving a sleep problem, or kind of supplementary to or causing the sleep problem, such as relationship worries, financial worries, work worries, other health conditions. They have a lot of experience in supporting people with sleep, and as such, you will find them engaging, supportive, helpful when you need to speak to them. Um, they'll help you pinpoint where your sleep problem is. They'll also work with you to determine what your sleep needs are. Um, and they'll create a step-by-step plan that you can follow over the course of the weeks. They're there if you have questions. They're there to prompt you whenever it's needed, support you when it's needed. A great way to kind of show how this personalization and kind of human support and empathy can have a big difference is there are elements of this program that are difficult. Um, and it's easy, much like for myself, losing weight sounds simple. It's move more, eat less. Sticking to it is much harder. What the sleep coach is there to help you with is provide you with someone that understands the journey that you're on, understands the challenges that you face, and wants you to succeed. Has seen many people before, at these points, at these sticking points that you might reach. So you'll probably find the first couple of weeks might be quite difficult. A lot of people see marked improvement within 3 to 4 weeks. Most people reach recovery within 6 to 8 weeks. The sleep coach is there not to just expect that to be the journey that you see. They're there to help tailor what the experience that you've got. They know when it is appropriate, or what's appropriate to change or reorder, or how you might address things or look at alternative techniques. So the step by step is as individual as you are, with the sleep coach looking at kind of how they can best support you as an individual to achieve what you're looking to achieve over time. So everyone can come in with different sleep goals. There's common themes with regards to them. Most people are looking to either fall asleep faster or stay asleep for longer. When you're looking at kind of other outcomes that people are looking to achieve, you're looking at people that are looking to improve their mood, or achieve better quality of sleep. So they think, well, it feels like I'm getting the right quantity of sleep, but it's not the right quality of sleep. I don't feel refreshed the next day. As Neil mentioned, performance is down, and kind of the attitude and energy, it could be seeing improvements. Ultimately, what the sleep coach wants to help you do is to feel the benefits of great sleep. Sleep should be a background process. Sleep should be something that you're not scared of, you're not thinking about during the waking day. There's a lot of kind of where issues where sleep has become a problem, and that problem deepens and becomes harder to resolve because of the fact that there's a lack of confidence there about A, being able to fall asleep, B, being able to stay asleep, or the number of times that you wake during the night. And it's something that can feel like it's a bit of a snowball. It's getting worse over time. What we really want to have is that sleep is something that you're making the allowances for, you're planning around, and you're prioritizing, but then you're not really thinking about or worrying about during your waking day, because you're feeling the benefits of it. You've got that refreshing, restorative sleep, and you're getting all of those benefits the day following. We genuinely do believe that everyone deserves a good night's sleep. As an organization, we designed the service. There was 2 prerequisites whenever the service was designed, over 11 years ago. The first one being that it needed to be something that, whilst we were there to support a face-to-face intervention with a digital alternative, we had to follow the same methodology and provide the same kind of experience that you would get in clinic, the same level of personalization, and the same level of support, looking at all of the kind of technology and enhancements and the tech enablement that could be on offer, which has obviously meant that is why that it outperforms the face-to-face currently. And the second one being that it has no waiting list. Both of those prerequisites were at the heart and the core of all the decisions that have been made along the way around how the service has been designed, it's been supported, and how it's evolved. And it's that focus on the individuals. It's not treating people as we'll create a process. Some people, these 100 people will enter it. Everyone will have the same experience, and a certain percentage will achieve a benefit. The sleep coaches are there. The service has been designed to try to ensure that when you enter this program as an individual, you're treated as an individual, supported as an individual, and ultimately we're aiming to try and get every individual to that end point where they've had a success. So what we do see is common themes whenever people talk about Sleepstation. If you look at our reviews online, the word life-changing is used all of the time. So you'll see comments like this from Adam. If you have suffered with a sleep problem for a long time and then you get to the point where you not only do you no longer have that problem, but you're feeling the benefits of good sleep, it can be completely life-changing. And that's not something that you will just see and hear from the individual themselves, but it's something that we also get comments coming from friends and family of people that have been supported with Sleepstation to say that they see the change and it's made a difference, to work life, home life, family life. As a result of helping that person take away the kind of dark cloud of sleep being a problem for them, getting to the point where they actually are getting the sleep that they need. The thing that is referenced the most in Sleepstation's feedback is the support. That's the thing that makes it unique, makes it engaging, and makes it highly effective. There's the science is the science. We're not changing the science. What we're doing is providing expertise around the application, the structured delivery of that scientific intervention. And the sleep coaches are really what's there when if someone's had a bad day, it's easy to give up. Whenever you've got the sleep coach there saying, you know what, don't feel bad about this. All of the great reviews you've seen online and feedback and testimonials, all of those people that got success and talk about the great change it's had for them, they found this bit difficult too. Stick with it. There's things we can do if you stick with it over the next few days. There's some alternatives we can try. Having someone that has taken others through that journey can be great. And sometimes that's the difference maker. That's the thing that keeps people engaged through that bit where they're just about to see results and it would be easy to stop because it feels difficult. It's the sleep coaches that really make that difference, and that's the core of how our service has been designed to have an impact. And the great thing as well is it's not just something that we see people coming to us from different walks of life and having a sleep problem and kind of signing up to the service. Ultimately, you do get out of it what you put into it. But there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of credibility behind what we do, and as a result, we do support health systems across the world with regards to the delivery of Sleepstation as a service for their patients. And we get doctors and clinicians and medical professionals across the world using Sleepstation as well, and talking about the kind of the impact that it has on their lives. So what I would say, my role here is to talk about how Sleepstation can actually provide a solution to your sleep problems. If you have come here today and sleep is an issue or sleep's a concern for someone, I know that the institution obviously supports partners as well. If you have someone else that you think it's relevant for, if you follow this link, I do believe the link will be shared at the end of today or in the following days whenever the follow-up is sent out. That is where you can literally log in, create a login, and gain access. There are no waiting lists. You could be speaking to a sleep coach within a matter of hours, and that sleep coach is there to try to support you to recovery and better sleep going forward. So this is the point where I think we'll go into the question and answer. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for giving Dr. Neil your time as well, and hopefully we'll get some interesting questions. You can see the real power of Neil's expertise coming to the fore.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both Neils, for that really interesting webinar today. We have had a number of questions come through, so I will just work my way through those. So I think they are mainly for Dr. Neil, to be fair. The first of which is, I suffer from anxiety, which has affected my sleep big time. Now on citalopram. Yeah, initially slept good, albeit a few hours, but now on a larger dose and sleep again not good. So they wake at 3, doze until 8, and then can't sleep again. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, it may be a cause of the medication. I mean, citalopram is actually probably one of the better drugs for sleep, but that class of drugs is known to be alerting. But I say citalopram is probably the best of them for actually quality to sleep. But if your sleep has changed when you changed your dose or upped your dose, it may point towards the medication, or it may just point to that you haven't resolved your anxiety. And waking up, you know, the things you do to go to bed at night to help you sleep at night are the same sort of things that you need to do in the middle of the night if you do wake up. Don't lie there, don't get frustrated. If you've been awake for maybe 20 minutes, get up, do something else in another room, and then when you feel sleepy again, go back to bed. There's no point tossing and turning. So don't be afraid to get out of bed, read a book, and then go back to bed when you feel sleepy again.
Brilliant, thank you. So our next question is, I've heard of techniques used, especially in the military, that help people fall asleep very quickly. Are these real, and is it a bad idea to use them if you fall asleep so quickly?
Okay, this is something that was mentioned in a book written by an athletics coach, and it's now been called the military method. It doesn't actually exist. It was used it was a relaxation method used by US Navy pilots at one training school during the war, and it took 6 weeks of intense training to learn how to relax, and part of that was falling asleep. But it was then mentioned in a book published in 1969. I've been involved in sleep research for 41 years now, and I only recently started hearing about this supposed military method. It doesn't exist unless you've done the 6 weeks training course. And nobody can detail what was in that 6 week training course all these years later. So, and you don't want to fall asleep too quickly. It's a media, social media created nonsense.
Okay, brilliant. So the next question is, as one gets older, the need to get up is dictated by physiological issues. Sorry. How does this affect your sleep model?
Well, what happens in some people as they get older, there is a shift in the timing of their sleep. It's an advance. So some people want to go to bed a bit earlier, and that may mean that they wake up a bit earlier. Now, some of that is an age-related change. Other of it can just be sheer boredom and the need to keep warm. There's different pressures on that. The other thing is, so waking up in the morning, is it a problem? If you've set your alarm for 7, if you wake up at 6, you might think, oh my God, I haven't had an hour's sleep. Or you may think, well, actually, I feel great. I feel, full of beans and ready for the day. If you do feel that, then get up, regardless of what the time is. Of course, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, there's probably a problem. But don't think that society dictates when you should wake up. If you wake up, feel awake and raring to go, then get up, whatever time it may be. But there is, as I say, there is that change. And also the other thing that happens as we get older is our sleep becomes lighter and more easily disturbed. So when you're 20, you get up, you have a pee, you get back into bed and nobody cares. When you're 57, you get up, you have a pee, you go back to bed, you lay there for an hour and a half wondering what's happened. That's a natural change, but there are things. If you are worried about your sleep, then do something about it, because some things are a natural change, other things are things that can be treated or resolved.
Brilliant. So the next one is, how much impact can external stimuli, such as industrial or transport noise, have on restorative sleep? And how would you assess the number of disturbed nights that might be considered important for health outcomes?
I mean, that's difficult. The thing is, some people are very attuned to noise as a disturbance. Other people seem to can sleep through anything. Other people can be disturbed by, most of your sleep disturbance probably caused by your bed partner, either snoring or moving. I mean, I published the first paper ever about couple sleep back in 2005. So there are many things that can disturb sleep. We do know regarding traffic noise that it takes about 3 weeks to adapt to the traffic noise. If the noise is relatively constant, you become used to it. But if you live somewhere where the noise isn't particularly constant. So, juggernauts go past at the same time, at random times during the night. It may take you a while to become adapted to it. With regards to how many nights sleep is a problem, poor night's sleep, one night poor night's sleep is a problem. The more you have, the more problems you're going to accrue because of it. But we should be aiming to get a good night's sleep every night.
Brilliant. This one might be for the other Neil, actually. As a parent, I find most of my sleep is driven by my children. Can Sleepstation help parents improve children's sleep?
Unfortunately, I've come in with the answer is no. Just Sleepstation is a service that's designed for adults from the age of 18 upwards. There's kind of unique challenges. Neil might be able to kind of go into more detail with regards to the unique challenges with regards to children, but Sleepstation as a service isn't for anyone under the age of 18.
Perfect. I would add to that we do actually have a separate parenting helpline. So if you are finding you're having major issues with your children sleeping, that they may be able to assist with that. So you can just get in touch with me separately, or there's information on our website about it. So our next question for you, Dr. Neil, is I usually sleep well most nights, but periodically for a few days in a row, wake up very early, around 5 a.m. instead of my usual time of 6:30 to 7. I'm usually unable to go back to sleep properly. This occurs roughly at 4-week intervals, occasionally missing a month. Is there any evidence that some people can be affected by the moon, as its period would match roughly the 4-week pattern?
There is indeed science that shows that certainly the full moon can have a negative effect on sleep. And this was actually done by very, very credible researchers and published in a credible journal. So yes, there is evidence that the full moon can disturb sleep. Having sleep is not stable. We can have good nights and bad nights, and that's perfectly natural for no apparent reason. Again, it doesn't sound like a problem. A couple of nights, 5 o'clock or 5 instead of 6:30. So enjoy the extra hour. Learn Spanish or take the dog for a walk or something.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, that is all our questions for today. Thank you so much for addressing them and for the webinar in general. As we've mentioned before, a recording of the webinar will be sent to all delegates within a day or so. We will try to add in the link to the Sleepstation referral through into that webinar, but you can also find it now on the Support Network website. So we have a tab within that for Sleepstation, and the referral link is in there. As Neil has mentioned, it is free to all IMechE members and their immediate family. So your partners, your adult children, so over 18, as Neil has mentioned, and your parents. If any of them are having issues with their sleep, please feel free to direct them to that and they can access the service. In General Support Network, we have a range of webinars to support you in your life, and you can find further information on upcoming webinars as well as recordings of our previous ones on our website. Our next wellbeing webinars are Thriving in a Hybrid World on the 12th of April and 7 Nutrition Habits for Highly Effective People on the 10th of May. We also have a range of financial webinars running throughout the year. If you're interested in any of the webinars, you can book on and watch live, or if you book on, you will receive a recording to watch at your leisure. That leaves me now to thank both the Neils for your input today and for everybody for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.